What's happening? Kyle Postlethwaite, aka Malker here at Big Kitty Games. It's been a long time since I made a video. It's been a long time since I updated Patreon, and that's kind of where this video is actually targeted. I'm going to upload it to YouTube and stuff as well, but want to apologize for not having more on Patreon, and give a big thanks to everybody that is on Patreon helping support Solace Crafting development. Um, as you know, Steam keeps 30% of everything I make, and Patreon has really helped to make up for that across these past 4 years. And that's kind of what this video is all about, really, is why there isn't content up on Patreon. Kind of what's going on. Patches have been getting sort of further between one another the past couple of months here. And kind of the first step in that really is a lot of indecision that I've had this year for a number of different topics that I want to get into in this video, and really being afraid to talk about them, if I'm honest. Not sure even now if I should be talking about all of these things, because I never have, and you know, so we're going to get into a number of different things here, but I'm just going to talk about them. I mean, I always try to be really honest, open, forward developer, and even making this video now that I'm here finally doing it. It's still scary, but if I get bashed on for telling the truth, honestly, I think there's going to be way more people that appreciate me telling the truth than maybe some outliers that don't appreciate me being honest. So here I am. But anyway, kind of the first thing is the topic of looking for a publisher. And this is something that I really got into some great discussions with some of my peers this year. What is a publisher, I guess, might be a question for some people. And back in the day, you couldn't do anything without a publisher because you had to print CDs, you had to print boxes, you had to have deals with, Best Buy or, wherever, to get your game out there throughout the world. Nowadays, it's all digital downloads. For someone of my size, I'm not going to have my collector's gold edition box or anything like that anytime soon. So what falls on then to the role of the publisher in that case? And generally nowadays what that would be marketing. And definitely publishers can become creators, developers as well, which can be a very powerful tool. There's actually a peer of mine that he's the developer of a game called Winterfall that's currently under development. Real nice guy. I think we met back when I started my Kickstarter, and he was just kind of getting into things himself, and we just kind of became friends through that mutual struggle of really not knowing what to do but wanting to make a good game, and we both took very different paths. He went straight for looking for developers, looking for publishers, looking for help, and I gunned it out solo from the beginning, and I've been doing that ever since. So now that it's been 4 years and we've both walked these totally different paths, it's really, really interesting to talk to him about this topic, especially because he's got such a different set of skills and experiences that he's gained over the years because of this. And he actually made like a 40-minute video for me where he walks through my game, Solace Crafting, and points out things that he feels would be most important for improving prior to attempting to attract a publisher. And that's not so different from, what the public wants either, necessarily. They were all really great tips, and I agree with all of them. But I did watch a lot of other stuff, and it really did a lot of thinking. This has been going on since like March, that I've really been struggling with this idea of really, do I need a publisher or not? And there's actually some really great content on the internet. One in particular was a video by one of the members of Devolver Digital, which is a publisher. They're a video game publisher, and they've taken on a number of indie titles over the years. None of them come to mind, but and his presentation was basically that you don't need a publisher. You don't. They can bring a lot of benefits again, and that's really kind of what I was looking for. I think in the back of my head, and again that plays into my indecision and sort of the hit to productivity that generates, that kind of indecision generates, in that it would be really cool to have a programmer working on Solace Crafting while I get to work on a lot of other things that need attention as well. But that doesn't exist. It's just me. And so, and there's that whole story about how I tried to do that last year, and it was a really bad experience, unfortunately. But ultimately, a publisher is also going to take a fixed percent of everything you make. And again, sometimes it's like, well, if you had a publisher and they were really, stellar at marketing, maybe you sold 1 million copies, whereas by yourself you would have only sold 100,000 copies. And then it's like, they took 30%, Steam took 30%, I'm only left with 40% of, this thing I've put 40,000 hours into. I did the math on that earlier. It's 40,000 hours for 4 years. And I've probably put in more than that, which is crazy number. But anyway, the difference between 100,000 and 1 million copies sold is going to far outweigh any sort of 30% margin that you've lost, and this and that. But, you can't know which way is going to go, which direction is going to play out how, unless you do it. And so, from day one, I've always just really wanted to not have a publisher. I've really wanted to just keep control of everything myself. And I've never really talked about this, I don't think, but, Solace Crafting is kind of the flagship, but I don't consider this to be my masterpiece or my, life's work. It's Big Kitty Games. I want to last for the next 50 years. I want to make other games. I want to make Solace Crafting a lot better than it is right now. I want to keep developing Solace Crafting after version 1.0, and I want to make that very clear. But I don't want to spend the next 15 years just working on Solace Crafting, and I'm pretty sure that makes sense to everybody, and is one of the main reasons why getting a mod, capabilities really improved is very important to me, because I know there's a lot of players that are willing to really assist on that, even if they don't necessarily know programming, on making new armor skins, making new weapon models, making quests, and all of that stuff can totally be programmed so that you can import things into your game world. And I've done a lot of that, and I'm going off on a tangent, but anyway. So yeah, it's really been like, is it okay for me to talk about that with, the open community openly, and just say, I don't think I'm going to go for a publisher. What do you guys think? Does anybody care? Probably not really. But I don't know, for some reason that's been a real source of stress for me this year. And, even here I am trying to say I'm not going to do it. It's still like in the back of my head, it's like, man, maybe you should, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put Solace Crafting 1.0 out by myself, and I'm really still secure in my belief that it's going to earn me a nice chunk of money. It might not be $1 million or more, but it might be. But I think that at least I'll be able to get like a half year's salary or something like that, and continue working on things. And of course, the goal, as I've mentioned many times in the past, is to make a lot more than that, to make a couple $100,000 or something, and then be able to hire on somebody to make the game even better, and sort of get the ball rolling in that direction for the next decade more. Because again, Solace Crafting could be a lot better than it is right now if it wasn't just me working on it, and there's other games that I want to make too. So Oh, my monitor's died because I didn't move my mouse. Anyway, um, so basically, I'm sticking it out solo, and the next topic that I want to get into is the fact that that has actually really burned me out. And so, again, I want to make it really clear that I'm never going to abandon Solace Crafting. That's just ridiculous, and would be a terrible decision for me in no matter what angle you're looking at it. There's nothing good that would ever come for me out of that. That's not anywhere in my interest. But I am really burnt out on the game. Again, I ran the numbers quick. It's over 40,000 hours to work full time on something for 4 years. And some weeks I was putting in, 70 hours a week. And so I don't, know what the actual number's at. And that doesn't include holidays. So who knows? But that's a lot of hours. You imagine playing one single game for every day for 6 days a week for 4 years. It's really hard. And there's a couple of reasons for that I want to get into, but kind of the too long didn't read summary is last week I was just having a really hard time doing anything productive. It's just my gas tank was on empty, and I kept trying to crank the wheel, and just nothing was coming out. And so Thursday night, I think it was, I put the game down, and I just stopped working on it. It's only been 4 days since then. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's Tuesday afternoon for me right now. And I've been working on something else. I'm not the type, I don't watch TV. I don't like to just sit around. I do play video games at night and stuff here and there, but I really do like to work. It's just that working on this one project, one really difficult project for so long, has really stressed me out. So I do kind of want to get into what I've been working on also, even though it's just in, the absolute beginning phase. But I can feel my batteries recharging. It's not me not doing it because I'm so stressed out about it and so burnt out on it. It's me not doing it because I'm doing something else. And those two things are very different, even though they may sound very similar. I'm not thinking about, I should be working on it right now, which is what last week and a lot of this year has been. Anytime that I'm not working on it, even though I know that there's a lot of stuff to do, it's just this weird downward spiral of, you should be working on this right now. Oh, I guess I should, but I can't. And I don't want to. And and it's been this really dark cloud for a while. So working on something else is just a totally different mindset. It's fun, it's new, it's exciting. And then after I haven't touched and worried about Solace Crafting for a week or two, or, I don't have any, set schedule or anything going on like that. But I can already feel it's going to be a lot more fun going back to it now, whether that's tomorrow or next week or what. But again, I'm not sure if I should talk about this openly. I'm really worried about pissing people off, kind of, is the thing. And especially here on Patreon, where this video is primarily intended for. The Patreon is called Solace Crafting. It's not called Big Kitty Games. And so I kind of want to ask openly, especially to the Patreon supporters, but to the whole Solace Crafting community, are you guys okay with supporting Big Kitty Games? Supporting me as a developer, at all on the same level that you are in supporting Solace Crafting? Or, is it, if I'm not working on Solace Crafting, I'm letting you down? Because I don't actually know the answer to that question, and it worries me. And I know that there's going to be some probably really small percentage of people, but that are going to take this as I've abandoned the game, and there's going to be no more patches, and there's probably already a post on that in the discussion board right now. I haven't looked in a couple of days, so who knows. But it just things can spiral out of control via hearsay so much, so quickly nowadays, that it's a very real concern of mine. But again, I really want to be open and honest about this, and everything. And it's just been really rough lately, and I'm really hoping that just taking some time off of it again to kind of recharge my batteries is going to help out a lot with that. Because there's really not that whole ton lot left to do to really get a 1.0 version out. So I'm still really interested in doing that, and it's 100% in my best interests to do that. So I kind of skipped a step here. I got some points here that I'm trying to get across, but again, because Patreon is so important to me, even if it's, I don't have 700 patrons, which is really cool when you see like, digital artists and stuff that have these tons of people following them, and they're putting stuff up every week, and that's their whole livelihood. It's like the streamers that make so much money just from streaming. It's really cool that we can have stuff like that nowadays where people support one another in their endeavors. So it is been a huge benefit to me to have Patreon supporters. So I want to make really sure that I'm not upsetting any of them, I guess, is the thing, So please, if you are really opinionated in one direction or the other, please let me know. You can comment, or you can private message me, or whatever. I'd really love to hear the Patreon supporters' thoughts on that, and also, of course, the community as well. Just because you're not giving me $1 a month or whatever doesn't mean you're not important to me. You're all paying customers of mine that, it's my job and livelihood and great pleasure to continue trying to please, by making cool games and making Solace Crafting better. So anyway, would really appreciate some input on that, because it's been really driving me nuts. Like it's like March that I thought up starting to make this video, and I've just been toiling over it for like 5 months now. It's every week I'm like, I'm gonna make that video tomorrow. And this is what I'm gonna say. And like before I go to bed every night, I'm like, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna say that. It's just been nonstop, and so I'm kind of scared to be here saying it, but it's really important that I get this off my chest. So, moving on to another topic, I started making another game. I guess there's kind of really no point in me getting into that, because it's nothing I can show off yet. Well, I did want to talk about, though, that, when I started Solace Crafting in 2017, I started learning how to develop in 2012. I learned C# from scratch. I didn't have any programming experience prior to that. And I learned Unity from nothing. I went through a bunch of their tutorials and just looked up stuff on YouTube for years. And I did that for like 5 years. And then like at the start of 2017, I started putting Solace Crafting together. I had sort of the rough idea of what I wanted to really do. And I tried to run the Kickstarter, and kind of the most common response that I got from the Kickstarter was that there's no way you can make this game with only $50,000. It's too big, it's too much, and so even if we give you support for this $50,000 Kickstarter you're trying to run, we don't believe that it's going to come to fruition. And I totally understand that, because I was, I had no portfolio, I wasn't established or anything like that. And there's a lot of really shady stuff that goes down on Kickstarter, unfortunately. But I ended up doing it with zero money, and it took a lot longer than I wanted and thought that it would. And it's still not, fully complete, but we've got a lot of people. I think like the most common is like 20 hours of playtime or something for a $15 game. And a lot of people go over 100 hours. Some people go more than that, 500, 600. I know a few people at least, that have gone over 1,000 hours of play with the game. So, I'm not trying to brag. It's just like, it is a game. It is definitely playable, and there's a certain group of people. I'm sure FIFA soccer fans maybe don't like it very much, and I wouldn't expect them to. But there are a certain type of people like myself that do really like the game, and are looking for it to improve. But anyway, again, I'm rambling. But the comments that I got during the Kickstarter, in a sense, they weren't wrong, because Solace Crafting is really difficult. It's like all of the most complicated subjects that you can take, procedural, open world, unlimited, or no borders, RPG, monster AI, again, 3D, online multiplayer. It's got all of the red flags for a solo developer in it. It's not a 2D side scroller roguelike, which I could make in 3 to 6 months. It's taken a really long time to get it to where it is, because it's such a big and difficult game. And so that's something I didn't understand back in 2017. There was no way for me to. I had courage and ambition, and I took the leap, and I'm still here, so that's cool. But using that experience, all of the experience that I've gained over the past 4 years of doing this full time, is now, it's knowledge that and experience that I possess. So I'm able to apply that to my next game that I just started working on it last Friday, so I've only been working on it like 3 days, but I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've got a lot of notes and notebooks, and how I want it to work, and the scale and the scope of it, and all of this. And I guess I just kind of wanted to say that it's a much simpler game, because again, I don't want anybody to think that, Solace Crafting has been in early access for 4 years, and now he's starting up another game. It's also going to be in early access for 4 years before it ever comes out, because that's not the case. It's a very, I guess, simpler is a word that works, game compared to Solace Crafting. And by simpler, I'm talking about the difficulty to develop it. It's not necessarily simple in the gameplay. You know what I mean? Like I said, like a 2D side scroller, you can still make a really difficult, complicated game. Even something like Dark Souls is, it's a, I don't know if that's AAA or not, but it's a much simpler game than Solace Crafting. And that sounds weird to say to some people, because Dark Souls and any, you could pick any game like that, they're much prettier. They're much more optimized. Their audio and their controls are much sharper and things like this. But the reason that they're able to do that is because everything is static. Or that's one of the big reasons that you can do that. If you have a predetermined world, it just makes everything so much simpler. And I guess I probably shouldn't really talk about that too much, because the game that I'm working on is actually not predetermined. I love procedural content, but that's what I mean by development is going to be much simpler. It is a 2D game. I'm calling it Solace Kingdoms right now. It's a kingdom management game on a scale that really doesn't exist. I was thinking about this last night or the night before, and it's dangerous to mention other games. Like I want to mention Civilization 6, but it's nothing like Civilization 6. It's just that Civ 6 has a scale that's, you're on this whole planet, right? And each tile represents like 100 kilometers or more or less, depending on how you set the map size up. And then you've got games like, Banished or Dwarf Fortress or whatever, where you've got each tile is like 2 or 3 meters, and you can see the people moving around and stuff. This is in between that. So like currently I'm sort of guesstimating that each tile is like 1 kilometer. So you're not actually controlling individual villagers and placing houses here and there and things like that. It's a much bigger scale, zoomed out kingdom management PvE game that I'm really excited to get playable. I'm still just working on the systems and the UI and the real basics right now. And again, really only to just take some time off from Solace Crafting. This isn't like my new thing that I'm going to be working on all the time. It's just to kind of recharge my batteries, like I keep saying. But anyway, I'd really love to show and talk about that when it gets ready. But yeah, I think that's really kind of most of what I wanted to get into. I'm probably forgetting 1,100,000 different things that I thought about talking about over the past months, but they escape me now. We are getting to the point in Solace Crafting where I'm going to be adding, I've already added in, I haven't patched them in yet, but I've got like, I think it's 5 or 6 new monsters, and these are going to be all the monsters that I'm going to include in the game for 1.0, so I don't have to add any more monsters. Like I've replaced the stone elementals in towers with dark elves and some different monsters in different places. Just because, the fire elementals up there, they don't really make any sense, and some of these things like that. And I want to, sort of the next step in development, which I've talked about a bit on Steam, is monster AI and monster abilities. So we're going to start having monsters be throwing rocks and fireballs and casting spells and using stuns and things like that. And so I want to actually start doing random modifiers on champion and hero mobs, which is something I think everybody's familiar with from games like Diablo 2. I think Diablo 1 even had that. But and also to have named mobs. And I've always thought that it would be a lot of fun to have one of the Patreon rewards be adding names and dialogue lines to monsters. So being able to choose something that a monster would say out in the world, if it randomly spawned from a pool of possible named mobs that could spawn. And I wanted to kind of bring that up and see what people thought about that. Patreon also has some merchandise tier stuff that they've set up this past year, where if over your lifetime you've supported more, and I can set these levels manually, but say you've given more than $50 of support throughout your lifetime of supporting Solace Crafting, then you get the option to accept a mug, or a t-shirt or something like that, and there's different things, and I thought that was really cool. And of course it's always optional, but I'm wearing my Big Kitty Games t-shirt here, and I got a Big Kitty Games mug. They're not actually from Patreon. These are from Streamlabs, which there's a link to in game now, but I thought I might add those to Patreon too. I've always really had a hard time figuring out how to better think and offer rewards for Patreon support, even though I think most people really are just interested in the game getting better. That's where most of the drive for supporting me comes from. I do want to make sure that if you're interested, there are some tangible rewards for that as well, and not necessarily tangible as well, but ways to get your name in the game. I think that would be a lot of fun. So anyway, please let me know what you think about that as well. This has been a long video. We're coming on 30 minutes. I'm sorry for rambling. I go off on tangents all the time, and this was a really difficult video for me to make. It's just the indecision, and is it okay if I talk about this stuff? And it's kind of like my mental health. Am I hurting my image with my customer base if I admit to the fact that I, can't just work nonstop all day every day for 4 years straight without going a little bit crazy? So it's taken me a really long time to make this video. I'm sorry that Patreon has been so dry this year, and that I haven't gotten any patches out here for like 2 weeks now. But I hope that explains a bit better what's going on, where I'm at. Again, the batteries definitely feel like they're charging back up. So I'm excited to see how that goes, because it's been a real struggle lately, and that's not good for anybody. I guess also maybe if anybody has any ideas, how to better get into that stuff. I had some really great talk with Stu, our community member, about organizing stuff on paper better, and just really getting your steps lined out and approaching them in an efficient manner and this and that. And I do have a vacation coming up on the 18th of August here. I'm going to be visiting my friends and family in the States, which I wasn't able to do last year because of the coronavirus. I'm getting my second vaccine tomorrow. It's still a real hassle to get on a plane, but that was also really stressful, not being able to see my friends and family last year at all. I've just been sitting here at home alone, making lines of text for days and days and days. And I think we've all had a bit of a taste of how stressful that can be. So I'm really excited to get to see my friends and family again here as well. And anyway, again, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, 32 minutes. I'll stop. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for the support. I'm still here. I'm doing well. I'm just having to shift gears a little bit to try and really get back up to the productivity levels that I once knew and loved. So hope you're all doing well. Stay safe. Wash your hands. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.